was that? I just checking. All right, welcome back out in the shed. As I mentioned, I'm going to keep slogging through this these last little 1%ers to get this thing finished. And today I'm going to tackle the door cards and basically bolt up the interior so that we can get that finished. All right, so I've got everything set up. These little seals for the window, as I mentioned, inner seal. Yeah, I've decided to get these little screws, 6mm screws, and I'll just try them, because originally they were stapled through. Yeah, you don't want to go too far behind there because that's where the window obviously is, and if you hit that, then you're in a world of pain. So I think the best way to do it is to just get your distance right, whether you have to cut the seal a little bit or not, and then just drill it in and then paint those black. I couldn't find any black ones. Second port of call, I've actually tackled this one first. Back on this bloody thing again. As you know from the last episode, I needed to fix this down into here. So I'm deciding to reprint these suckers here because it was proving too hard to find a screw to go right through this section and line it up down here. So I thought I'll just make them completely solid and put a riv nut in it, and yeah, and just screw. That way I can just screw probably like a 10mm Allen bolt through there to fix it in. There'll be enough pressure on that riv nut to hold that in, or nutsert. And so, yeah, everything else is pretty much ready to go on that one. I've got the wiring. Just got to put a little dab of silicone on there to sort that out, and then I'll put that in place. So that's what I'm going to concentrate on doing first. All right, so I've got those spaces, and I put a nutsert, and then I've got the Allen bolts here that I use for the tail lights. I've got heaps of these, so that'll be enough pressure. I'll have to put a washer on there, but that'll be enough pressure in there. I just like to melt the top over the top of the nutsert of the ABS, and that stops, you know, any chance of it lifting out if you put too much pressure in it. But yeah, these won't be torqued up very tight at all, so that'll be enough to just keep that console secure. All right, let's have a look. So this is the beauty of having the workshop set up for the printing, is that I can iterate. If I have a problem, I can iterate and find a solution pretty quickly. So by reprinting those little spaces and putting some heat certs in there, I've fixed that issue. So I never ended up tidying up that cable, but that'll never be seen. That's fine, just sit there. But yeah, that's solid as a rock now, and allows me to, like, I've bolted that rear section up, and then I just sort of finger tight there, and then I just slid it back and forth, and now that position is spot on. So you can just sort of slide it in. It's a bit hard to show you without one hand. Yep, that's it. So the only thing left to do now is 2 little screws in there. Just go straight into the plastic, and then the shift plate on top, and then obviously a cleanup. So I've been through that before, but it wasn't 100% finished, and so now it is. And I can move on to putting the door cards on finally. Forgot. Bang. All right, a bit of an update. So these are the scuttle panels. I don't know if I showed those. I showed the process of painting them, but that's the finished result. So I'm happy with that. I got the clear to lay down a lot better this time. And the reason that was the case was obviously they were flat. They were laying flat, so it makes it easier. But I just ran a higher air pressure and lowered the flow. So it was spraying out more, it was atomizing it more. A little low there. Oh well. Yeah, it was atomizing it with a high pressure and lower flow of clear. So that seemed to get a better finish, and I won't need to sand that for the scuttle panels. I'm happy with that. There is a better clear I'll use next time if I ever get to her next time. And these are the Kingswood mirrors, so happy with that. Those, I just ended up painting them in one piece and taped them off, and yeah, they came up quite nice. Same deal, the clears come up really nice on that as well, and good colour. So that was it. That was the last little thing to spray. As you can see, there's still shit everywhere up here. Most of this pile of crap will be will be leftovers, I think. So bumper bar's still here, still waiting on that bumper bar. It's turned into a 3-part mini series, like everything on this build. Yeah, so that's that. All right, so I've got the front bumpers arrived. I got that done in Queensland, Gold Coast, bloke called Alan Kerr. So you can see the original to the left. I just got the replacement. I didn't bother doing a changeover. So what the plan will be, obviously take these mounting brackets off, and I've got some new bolts as well from Resto Country. They look reasonably shiny. So yeah, you can see massive difference. You think you could polish that up, but when you compare it to a fully chromed bar, it's night and day. So it's worth doing. But yeah, they're not cheap. That was $1,400, and that's not including the brackets. But yeah, I did a bit of a deal with some tail lights to reduce it. But yeah, even still, it's they're getting bloody expensive to find a good one and get blokes like Alan to do it. Alan's been doing it for 50 years or something, he reckons, and he's probably only one of the last blokes around that does it. I went to Vinnie's, or I rang Vinnie's up in Melbourne, and their fabricator actually just resigned or something, or retired. So there was just an apprentice that was, bashing out the bars and doesn't have the experience. So yeah, they ended up not even getting back to me. So anyway, I went with Alan and shipped it down, and here it is. So I will, get those brackets off, give them a paint, bolt them up, and then tick it off the list. All right, so off camera, I've painted those, stripped them back, gave them a rough wire wheel anyway, not too stripped back, and then the brackets there. Gave them a coat of paint with this because I just had it lying around, but actually it's got a bit of tar in it, so I just topped it up with a bit of enamel just to make sure it wasn't sticky. But yeah, I'm happy with that. I was never going to see it. This is also that charcoal canister I've just pulled out, giving that a little paint up. I could probably, I'll just reuse that hose. It's pretty brittle, but it's pretty hard. But I'm getting to that point now where I really just don't care. So that will do. Also, yeah, rare spares. Well, the new bolts that I bought with the domed heads. Yeah, they didn't actually provide you with fresh nuts as well. So I've just painted the new ones and the washers purely just to use what I've got instead of having to wait again for another week in the post or whatever. They were pretty rusty, but yeah, so be it. It's a bit awkward, this thing, but you can see there the chrome's on the inside. You can see where he's done some hammer and dolly work. There's a bit of poop and stuff inside, but yeah, it's well and truly covered. So yeah, it's a little bit awkward to bolt these things up. It's probably best off being on that table in there, but we'll see. I'll just, I didn't really want to scratch it. I just want to keep it on a nice soft surface. So I'll see if I can bolt this up now where it is, and yeah, that'll be a job ticked off the list. Okay, so that's done. Well, it's done to as far as I can do it with one person. Yeah, to install these, you've got to have probably 2 to 3 people to get it risk-free. So that's the dilemma once again. Got to get some help to install these things. So I'm going to have to move on to the next thing. But yeah, I'm really happy with that. It's pretty much like straight out of the factory, brand new spanking bar. So now coming back to the steering coupling debacle. Now, for those who've been following this build, I was using the original, well, not the original, but this one came with it, which is just a nylon or a nylethene or whatever it is, coupling, and they're pretty ordinary. So I ended up going with the original steering coupling, and I held off because they're reasonably pricier. This was $150, and I was like, it's just a piece of rubber, but that's the cost. I think you might be able to get them cheaper elsewhere, but certainly through Rare Spares, that was the price. So anyway, I bit the bullet and did it, and now I've got to install it, and that poses a couple of issues as well. It's not a matter of just putting it in. Apparently you've got to loosen the bolts on the steering, power steering box. You can see I've got a little bit of a leak coming out of that hose there, which has just developed. So I'll have to fix that. But yeah, these 2 bolts down here, and it's good because I don't have the bumper bar and the lights on. I can get pretty good access. So I've just got to loosen one of those bolts, I think, and then yeah, that power steering box can tilt forward and allow me access. So I'll give that a crack. All right, so I've got that rag joint on, and I didn't know how much to tighten up those 2 bolts there, but yeah, the gap that I was talking about last time with that nylethene one, yeah, this fits much better. So I just took off that original saddle. Yeah, so I took the original off, and that just comes with a little bolt there. It joins it and puts pressure on it, and you've got little ridges in there that go onto the spline, and put the new one on, lifted up the hole, got underneath and just tilted that whole box up, and that allowed it to, yeah, get the gap distance right. I'm assuming those poles go there and the nuts go there, because it wouldn't make sense the other way around. So these obviously just guide pins. I think just guide it there and then that secures it. So yeah, that's not going anywhere. It's got a little bit of play just there, but I'm pretty sure that's normal for those joins there. Keeping in mind I didn't replace the bearings on those. I just replaced and refreshed the boot. So I'm happy with that, considering it was my first crack. So now I've got to move on to mounting this Davies Craig thermostat, a digital thermostat. This is a bit of a palaver, this bloody loom here. I don't know how people hide these looms. I've seen it, you literally can't see anything, and this is clear. Obviously that's the loom track there to run down. I'm missing a clip, but I could easily just fashion up. I was thinking of maybe just using one of these, putting a riv nut in there. So yeah, I was just going to mount that in there somewhere. And that's pretty cozy in there. And then just sort of tidy up the wire. They get the charcoal canister that I've sprayed in there. So yeah, these are all still pretty loose, but I was just, I put all the screws inside here. So I've done all those. Obviously they're stainless steel, but so you can see them. But you can see in there in the wheel arch, it's like a brand new car. So they're all joined in. They were pretty hard to locate, but yeah, with a bit of shaking and stuff, you can get them in, pop them in without too much of a drama. So that's done. They're secured. I'm happy with that door gap, happy with that guard gap. As you can see, it's looking bloody mint. Happy with it. So now I've just got to really, that's all, as I mentioned, you work your way from the quarter panel forward. So that's all locked in. This is a little bit concerning how it's got a bit of a gap there. But I'm not going to get too tied up in that. It's just, that is what it is. It must be just slightly off. Anyway, you can tilt that up a bit like that. It needs to go up a little bit and that will sort that out. Otherwise, I don't really care. Yeah, so slowly ticking them off. Next big job after that Davies Craig is remounting this regulator. It's currently at the rear of the engine and it sits right down because I had to get a clamp on the back of the block. I just don't think it's a very good spot. So I was going to move it to there just so I can get access more. You can see what's going on. You know, if there's is a fuel leak, it's not going to drop straight down onto the extractors, you know. So I think I'll do that and I'll just elongate or make a new hose on that side that goes to the carby. As you can see, it's just gathering dust in this shed. Unfortunately, this shed's not sealed, so you get dust coming in, but there's not much I can do. Yeah, so anyway, that's a bit of a bastard of a job, but I've got to drain the tank anyway because it wouldn't start and I think the fuel's off. So yeah, just an added headache, but anyway. So yeah, I'm going to move that, see if I can, I don't think anything else goes in that position. Obviously something did go there, but I think it was an aftermarket thing. So I could utilize those two mount points and just mount it there and maybe 3D print something that sticks out a bit so it'll be sort of sitting here a bit just above the heater fan, and yeah, it'll get a nice access for these pipes, two fuel lines running up to about there, and then that third one going across into the carby. Even though it's going to be a little bit longer, I don't think it's going to hinder any performance. Slowly but surely. All right, so I just tried to start it. It hasn't been started in over 12 months. And it was cranking, but didn't start. And so I was checking was getting 12 volts to the coil, making sure that it had spark on a lead, got a mate over who had a test light. So we figured all that out. But he said, oh, when's the last time you changed the fuel? I said, well, it was 98 octane 12 months ago. And he said, well, that's it. The fuel would be off, and that's the reason it's got no spark. So that's an absolute bastard. I didn't actually know that, but on 98 octanes only got a shelf life of a few months if it's in the tank. and it loses its combustibility over time. So I'd say that's the issue, and that is a bit of a bastard. So now I've got to drain the fuel tank, and I'll have to disconnect this fuel line here and do an extender and just turn the fuel pump on and pump it out. And then drain the bowl and the carby, and then go and get some new fuel and prime it, and then have another go. So yeah, it's it just shows you don't let them sitting around forever, especially if you've got 98 in it. Otherwise it could fail to start next time you try, but also I'm just concerned it might gum up the carby. Hopefully it hasn't. So yeah, these things, it's just one thing after the other. It's the last thing I really wanted to flap around with, is draining a fuel tank. But yeah, need to get this engine started again and get the oil around it and circulate it around it again. It's been sitting too long. All right, so another job that needs to be done are these tarp clips. Go down the side of the ute, and there is a bit of a method to putting these in as well. So basically what you want to do is you get, and this is what I've been told by one of the guys in the WB group, Fletcher Hamilton. He says, get a file, preferably a round one. I've only got one that's got a round, one half rounded. But tape off an area that you can't go further, and just sort of go in there and scrape the body filler and anything that's got in there that's reduced the diameter of those holes. And yeah, just make them circular as much as possible without going back to the bare metal. And then you're going to stand a better chance of not cracking any paint when you push these in. And so also you want to grease these little studs here, and then they should slip in better. It also says to take a little bit out of the center of these with a drill, just so that these pins don't require so much force to pop in, because they're notorious for having too much force and warping the metal as they go in. So yeah, they're the things that you've got to be wary of when you're putting all these things in, if you want to try and eliminate any kind of dinting of the panel. So it's a pretty nerve-wracking job, this one, and one that I've been putting off. But you can't put it off forever. You just got to go and have a crack and do it. And it is what it is at the end of the day. If something happens, then just deal with it and roll on. All right, so I've just done that, and I've just been running around. It's a bit hard with one hand without sort of pulling it back. And just working my way around and just widening that hole. And then I just got some micrometer. I just got a micrometer here and just worked out the width of those studs on the clip, which was about 6.5 mil. And then I just used that section there just to check the diameter of each of these holes, just to make sure that I'm not pushing something in that doesn't want to go. As you can see there, they still need to be widened, those two. So that's my method. I'm just going to go through there, and once I know that this is, they're all got a diameter of the same diameter of that, then you're not going to be sort of over pushing and potentially cracking paint. So I think that's probably the best step forward. And then I've got a little bit of this just grease, just brake grease, and I'll just grease around here, around those pins there. And then once that goes in, then if you need to, you can arbor out these centers for the pin if it's a little bit too tight to actually push in. So we'll try that next. All right, so I've tried the drill method where you put this in with the grease and then drill out these arbors a little bit more, or the hole just a smidgen, to allow that pin to slip in. But obviously with the risk of that is that you take too much off and then the pin's loose, and then it's really not doing anything. So I did a bit of research, and I found that you can actually use a heating source. There's one method where they heat the inside of the plastic hole, and then when it's at melting point, or not melting point, but softening point, then you push the pin in. And the perfect instrument to do that with is a soldering iron. So it's not on at the moment, but I've set this at 250 degrees. I did a test before, and on one of these, and sacrificed a pin, and went in, it slid in just with my finger pressure. And then once it cooled, there's no way I could get it back out again. So I think that's a pretty safe method to do it without putting too much force on this. If you try to do it without either drilling it out or softening it, you'll have to hammer it and you'll either crack your body filler or you'll dint the panel. So yeah, I'm going to give it a go and see how it fares. All right, that method actually worked pretty good. I've got it on, and there's a tiny little bit of movement in it, because what I think I did is I think I filed out the holes a little bit too much when I was pushing in the actual unit. So if it was a little bit loose to start with, you're not going to get a great seal. But so I'm giving that a bit of a yank. It's a tiny little, it shouldn't have any wiggle at all. There's a tiny little wiggle on that. But essentially I put the soldering iron in for about 15 seconds. It was probably a bit too long. And then I changed it up to 10 seconds, and that was enough just to soften it, and then those things just slid straight in. I also think this is probably a little bit thicker around here with body filler, so it's probably not as deep as it should be. But he said I'm giving that a bit of a shake, and it's not moving. I'm not going to really run a tarp on this anyway, so it's really just to finish it off. If it was going to be a functional part and you put a bit of pressure on it, who knows how long it would last. But I'm pretty happy with that. I think you could tie down quite easily on that. If it pops out over time, I guess just put another one in. So that's the method I'm going to run with, as opposed to drilling it out. I just think the drilling, you've got to have the right precise drill bit, and I couldn't find one. So the soldering iron, 10 seconds at about 250 degrees in the hole, pull it out, and the pin just slides straight in. You could even probably, if you wanted a tighter fit, you could probably even leave it in there for like 5 seconds. But I think the biggest thing to get right is these diameters of these holes need to be spot on, so that it's not too loose but not too tight, that you push it and crack the paint. And if you get that right, when it comes time to heating up the inside and putting the pin in, it should be a really strong seal. Oh yeah, another exciting thing. I know I've been going on about these Kingswood badges, but I decided to pull the trigger and get them made professionally. So they're ABS and chrome, and 3M VHB tape on the back, so they stick on there like no tomorrow. They're pretty much identical, moulded off the originals, and CNC cast out of aluminium, or CNC routed in aluminium and then injection moulded. So they're the real deal. They would have been made the same way back in the day. There was a foil one as well, which had a brushed foil, and this is sprayed black plastic, so that'd be chrome underneath. But the other variant is foil, which is brushed, and then the black plastic is actually just ABS black plastic. But the reason I didn't opt for that in the end is because they're not as UV stable. But I may end up just doing them anyway, because like all of you know, these utes probably won't be parked out in the sun. They'll be in the sheds. So a foil, when they say it's not UV stable, it probably would be fine for years on end. But if you're parking it outside, it might, start to fade after a year or two. But this chrome is a lot more durable, and that's why I opted for that. Even though technically they were brushed foil, there was some that actually came out just chrome as well. So there was some options, just like there is now. So yeah, I think for now I'm sticking with the chrome. The chrome looks unbelievable anyway, but I think down the track I'll bring out the foil as well for those who want to do the foil. But very, very happy with that, and they're already online for sale, and I've sold quite a few already. So if you want one, get on the Unique Parts website and grab one. All right, so Aidan came over and we tackled the bonnet and we got it down flat. Just needs a slight adjustment. It's probably like 2 mil high. And yeah, I'm happy with that. So good gap on that side. Not the greatest gap on that side at the top, but good down there. So what I reckon the case is there is we put a spacer on. Remember we put those 3 spacers on this guard here because we didn't want that door to come out and hit it. Got some wax spatter on there. Yeah, so what I think I've done is I've just put probably 5 mil on that top spacer that shouldn't be there. We could probably get away with it, but at this stage I'm leaving it because I'm really happy with the way that that's sitting, the door, and I'm happy with the way the bonnet's sitting. And to be honest, yeah, like that, you would never tell anyway that from factory they're worse, as everyone knows, these mounts. So when you're doing the bonnet, you can loosen those 2 front mounts on the radiator support, and you can shift that whole section back and forth like that. So if you need to get a bit more of an angle, you can just like give it a shunt and you might get 5 mil. So we did that, we pushed it over and that worked out. Also, you know, you've got your, so you've got these mount points here. So that really just determines your back and forth. So how far you're going to go towards the windscreen and then back. But you can also tilt it like this. So, you know, if you decide to push this one a little bit further back, and that will angle the whole bonnet one way or the other. And so that is one way to, you know, reduce the gaps. If you've got a big gap here and it's tight on that corner, then loosen that top bolt, and then you can drop that back down this way, and then that will bring it in. And then vice versa, when you're doing these rear hinges, if you want to get it tucked right down, sitting flush in the guard, which is obviously what you want to do, drop that rear bolt right down and as far as it can go and pull this one up. It takes definitely 2 people to do that. That bolt at the rear needs to go down, and then that one, pull it up, and that sort of drops the whole thing right down. And obviously, if it's too far down, you just raise it up. And what Aidan and I did once we were happy with that, we've got a bit of tape just underneath here. That's bloody dirty at the moment. See that little bit of blue tape? We just taped it, and based on the top of that bolt there, we sort of knew how far we needed to go. We go, okay, well, we need to raise it 3 mil, and we just do it 3 mil off from that tape point. And then that was a good way of determining where we were and where we needed to go. Otherwise, you're just chasing your tail all the time, trying to figure out, how far did I go? Shut it down again. The bastard is that when you're doing it, you can't get access underneath. So really, if you had an opportunity, I'd fit the bonnet before the engine was in. So if you get the guards in and then, you know, put it down and sort of reach up and tighten those bolts with the bonnet shut, it'd be a hell of a lot easier. But for 99% of the people that are doing it, the engine's going to be in, the guards are going to be in. So that's the way to do it. And it is doable. Obviously, it's going to be a lot easier with not a finished painted bonnet. If you're doing it in primer and fitting it up ready for paint, then yeah, obviously that's the way to go, because once it's done, you can just tidy up any blemishes. But we had to be super careful because one little slip and she's all over. Yeah, just these points here. If you go too deep and that slides back, you'll smash it into there and gouge it all out. So you always have a towel under here. But yeah, get these back and forth points sorted first before you worry about the height, because that, if you've got it too far back, that's what's going to hit there. So once you get your distance right along here, you won't hit that even if you go right down. It'll still miss. So anyway, I'll probably move on to fitting this cable for the bonnet latch now. So I've got the spring there, got a rare spares kit. It's taken me to bark off the latch, but That's just the way it is. You probably wouldn't paint these, to be honest. They'd probably just be better off being metal. So now I just need to get this cable down, and it runs along down here and then over the guard and straight down to the firewall. And then obviously like they have the pull latch underneath there. So I've got all the bits and bobs for that, and I'll just, it's a bit of a tight job to do. So as you can see, it's looking really good. The next thing I wanted to tackle, which I don't think I've shown, I mean, I've been filming this over the course of 6 months now, I think 5 months. So these are the Kingswood mirrors. Everyone knows about those, and when you mount them, they come with a gasket that comes and sits on there, so you don't scratch your paint. Now, they actually don't exist anymore. I don't think, if there's any around, they're hiding in someone's cupboard, waiting for to cash in on a rainy day. So I measured them up, and with the power of technology, I printed some. Obviously, I've got this mini factory on the table. So anyway, so these are the ones I'm going to use, and there's a left and a right, and I've done about 3 variations of them. So I'm happy with the fit. And now it's coming time to install them. So I'll take them off and have a look. Well, there you go. You learn something every single time you try and do it. But I've just found out that the driver's side or the right-hand side is different to the left. Why they would do that, I have no idea. So this section here is different. It's not identical. It's the thing with these old cars. It was like, there must be a reason they did that. If anyone knows, let me know. But you can see there, look, that's the same gasket. So I just did that left one, flipped it, thinking that it would just be identical and symmetrical, when it's changed on the bottom there by quite a bit. So who bloody knows why they did that? Why wouldn't you just make them symmetrical? Anyway, so I'll have to go back and change that file just for the right-hand side. All right, I'm absolutely bowling these jobs over now. If I keep this up, I may actually finish this thing. That's the passenger, driver, done. So they're very fiddly to get on. I didn't want to over-tighten them, because I can imagine if you did, you could snap that casting screw point underneath, and then you'd just be in an absolute world of pain. So I've just done it up that it's, firm enough, but don't know the torque specs or anything on that, so going to leave it. So I've done the bonnet as well. See if we give it a little bit of a latch pull. It's been a little bit kind of don't know if that worked. Yeah, that worked. So yeah, I've bought this kit of rare spares, and it gives you a latch, gives you that little anchor point there. You go through there, but it shortchanged me on one of these, so it's given me an extra one of those, which I don't need, and I reckon there's maybe even one there as well. So once again, rare spares just inconsistent with their quality and stuff. But that's another latch there, and there is another hole there, which I reckon you could put another one. So yeah, if I can come across those, I'll do it. But it works. It's not seamless, that's for sure, but it definitely pops the bonnet, and that is all I want to achieve. So job done. Okay, so another thing I need, even though I've been selling these taillights, I haven't actually had a chance to get myself a pair. So I've now getting these looms made for the taillights. They're specific to this design with the Nava connector on the back. And so yeah, finally afforded myself the luxury of getting a set for myself. And so I'm going to rebuild them, put the loom in, get all the bolts. I'll show you how these are actually manufactured at the same time. And then I'll install them, and then I'll have a set of my own tail lights, believe it or not. And that will be another job ticked off the list. Okay, so I thought I'd just run through how one of these tail lights is produced. Although it's a product that I'm actually, selling, and everyone's like, enough of the 3D printing business. It's part of this build, and it's a really intricate part of the build. So I wanted to break down, just like I do with fabrication of any of the Ute or anything that I've done, break down how it's actually developed, and show how much work goes into building one of these things. So first things first, you can't do it unless you got one of these machines here. This is a Chitty +4. It's basically a consumer level industrial printer. It's got a heated chamber up to 60 degrees. Initially I was given one to test, and then I've liked them so much I've got another two. So these are production workhorses for a lot of the parts that I produce, but they are specifically integral to getting the tail lights produced because of the build chamber size and the fact that it's heated. So it can do high temperature filaments like ABS. And so this is an ABS glass fiber print, and it takes over 15 hours to print. So that's just to start to get the base model ready for production and assembly. So generally I'll start these prints at say 7 in the morning, and they're still going at about 9 p.m. at night. And if you have one little error, you have to basically start again. So that just shows you the amount of work that goes into it. They've got an intricate support system that I've had to develop in order to print it the way it is, and in one piece. So that was one of the hardest challenges for this, to reproduce this tail light. They're not just sent over and produced in China, they're produced completely here in-house in Australia, and I'm proud to say that I've actually managed to pull it off. So once this is done, the next process is to strip the supports, which are, as you can see here, like it's a sort of a terraced support system. It goes right through underneath as well to support all those light socket holders, and continue and make sure that you've got the actual circles as well in there. So I'll just show you stripping that, and then we'll go to the next stage, which is paint. Here's the part. So generally, put gloves on. Being glass fiber, you can get shards of like fiber in your hands, and also you should wear a mask as well. But these supports that are designed to snap off pretty easily. But this is a time-consuming process as well, but this is all part of the handmade kind of structure of these lights. So if you can get a good go at it, for instance this section here, so that was moulding around that Nava Connect globe holder there. And you can see the reinforced mount just in the center there to make sure that it doesn't snap like the old ones used to do. And same deal with these sections here. If you get a good wriggle on, you can remove that whole section. So you can see it's beautifully molded and supported around that area there. And you can see that there's a very complicated overhang, and you've got an overhang here, you've got a circular area which needs to be accurate to accept the actual globes, and then you've got a tunnel here which accepts a heat cert, which we'll get to later on. And then so do the last section here. This support system is just, I could take my hat off to the +4. It just, it's amazing that had support on it. I mean, you can hardly see any touch points at all. So overall, a fantastic printer for the money. Of course, you know, people who have thought about 3D printing and you know, like myself, have got into it. The 3D printers have come a long way even since I started 2 years ago. And something like this, which was impossible 2 years ago, can be done a lot easier. But it's not so much the printing capabilities of the machines anymore. It's always about the model and doing the right setup in order to print it reliably and also print it with strength. That's where the skill comes in. So that takes an enormous amount of trial and error. And yeah, I've learned a lot over the last 2 years since I've been doing this. In order to get a printout in one piece like that, it's been a real challenge. And yeah, as I said, I've managed to do it and managed to do it in a production sense as well, which is also one of the hardest things. It's all right doing one off, but if you've got to replicate that time and time again, that's where the challenge is. And the last little section here, as you can see, I've created a little loom plug there, and in here I've created a support structure to strengthen up the wall. And there's just a little bit that gets stuck in here. That's it. Like any injection molding or any kind of manufacturing process, there's always a cleanup for a part once it comes out of a mold or if it comes out of an oven or whatever. Yeah, it's whether it's metal or plastic, you'll always do some kind of cleanup, and 3D printing is no different. So that's the cleanup process, probably a 5-minute process. And then you've got your base ready for the further production, which is paint and then the heat certs. So I'll get onto them next. Okay, so second stage after it comes out, or the third stage, is just tape up the rear of those because paint will fly through and it'll overspray will get in the back. And then it's ready to put in. I made a little template here for spraying, so you can just slot them in like that, and you can do 2 at a time. So once they're located, I'll just tape up the outside of the buckets, and then I'll be ready for paint. In the future, I'm in the process of redoing this complete print area and turning it into a proper little manufacturing area. So tables, new spray booth for these, and so things will become a lot more defined in the future. But for now, the old cardboard box is doing the trick. So you can see, just taping along the buckets there. From factory, I would have been really intrigued as to how they did this. And in the future, I'm going to make like a rubber window template. It's almost like a sandwich press that will come down and sandwich over the top of those, masking them out so that you can quickly paint them without having to mask up every time. Because these are a specialty item, I can do it at this level for now, and it's manageable. But I think, yeah, production gets to a certain point when you'd step it up. But always looking for efficiencies in doing things, and if you can do something an easier way with a minimal amount of extra effort to do it, then why not? So that little mechanism down the track, or that jig, will be really good to do. For those that restore the old lights, they would be familiar with this technique, no doubt, or they may have another style of doing it when they repaint the buckets on the originals. Of course, you know, a lot of people like to do that to keep the original in the ute, but for a lot of people, they're doing a resto and they don't want to inherit any issues of these older tail lights, and they also just want to get the thing done. And that's the beauty of these, is that, you know, you can pick go online, order a couple and have them within a few days, and don't have to do any work. So whereas the second-hand ones, as you know, you can get them and then you need to restore them. So additionally, there might be an additional cost up front for these, but certainly save you a lot of time and further money restoring old ones. And as you can see, the amount of work that goes into them, it's not something that you could take on yourself. I've put all the hard work into doing this, and you can appreciate the amount of time that goes into it, and that is reflected in the price of these. There's certainly a premium item, but they could be more expensive, to be honest. But yeah, you don't want to make them unobtainable altogether. So that's why I've resolved on the price that I've got them at, and for now that's fine. I try and get it as perfect as possible because people are buying something new and they want it to look good, even though you're never going to see the paint on these whatsoever. The job of these is to reflect the light, obviously, and they do that job well. If you put one of these lights up against an old one, there's a noticeable difference in the reflective brightness of the tail light. But of course, the main issue being with those lights is the mounts crack, and that's one of the reasons people end up finding new ones, because it's not so much the reflectiveness, which you can fix reasonably easy with this respray. It's the mounting on these that makes it impossible to get a good fit once they break. Okay, so that's it. They are ready for paint. All right, so spray time. There's a few different paints you can use. I've chosen to use the liquid chrome, which is a good paint. But yeah, there's a lot of different brands out there. So I'll show you the process for this. I usually do 3 coats. The glass fibre has a really good finish on it anyway, but the 3 coats just tries to iron out the imperfections on the layer lines on the print. But yeah, so it really doesn't need too much because of the quality of the print. So I'll just give that 15 minutes to dry off and then do the other coat. Right, so here we are. This is the final stage of production, and that involves assembling the heat certs in the rear of the light and then installing the globe sockets. So I use a special soldering tool for this with an end specifically to insert the heat certs, which are these little items here. And you're best to do this with a mask, obviously, or in a well-ventilated space. And they are an M5 thread, and the lights have been designed so that they accept these size heat certs. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that for both lights, and then we'll move to the next stage. Okay, so they're both done. And they're just melted over at the top so that they're well and truly secure and strong. So now that that stage is done, it's time to put the Allen bolts in it. It's a 12mm M5 Allen bolt. They're all the same length and a little washer. I just tighten them up anyway, even though you've got to undo them to install. Yeah, so that is that. And do that to all 6 bolts. Then you're ready to install the light globes. All right, so generally there's two options for the light. So being that these are my set, I'm going to go for the loom option. But generally they'll just come with with these sockets fitted, and the Bay 15S and the Bay 15Ds. So there's two Bay 15Ss and one Bay 15D, being the dual light option. So that's for your brake lights and your park light. The process is the same for the install of the light sockets. I'll show you, being this is my set, I'll show you on the actual loom. So these are specifically made for the Unique Parts tail lights. Can't get these anywhere else. But they are essentially a brand new tail light loom with each of the globes already there. So I'll take them off. So yeah, it comes with the pin that goes straight into the main body of the harness inside the tub, the earth, and yeah, the Bay 15D and the Bay 15S ×2. So, and the loom plug that goes into the loom socket there. So it just houses it nice and securely. And so what I'll do is I'll install these now, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Yeah, so you just push fit them on, and then carefully twist, and that's it. So they've been specifically designed to take the locking mechanism on these Narva globe holders. And that's all part of that. There's little lugs, and the way it's designed with the latches inside here, once you twist it, they lock into those little lugs there, and then you're right to go. And then the system of these two little pins here is what the click connect system is on these lights. So you literally just push it in and click it, and then it'll be in. So if you ever need to change or take the loom out, you don't have to flap around like you did with the old ones, where the light globe socket was actually melted and press fit into the plastic. These you can just take out pretty quickly and do the work you need to do, and then replace it again. And that was one of the benefits of redesigning it, is I could play around and change that and make it a bit more modern. But so single in the bottom, double in the middle. You can tell the brown wire, brown and blue is the double. And just push that in like that. And then just need a bit of force to click it into place. That's it. And that's locked in. And then the last one. All right, so they're in. Now it's just time to organise it so you can get this little pin in, press fit it in, and then tidy it up. I'll actually take that bottom one out first, and we'll press fit it in. You can see the way it is. You press fit it with those two little latches on the round sections, and when you need to take it out, you turn it. That's it, that's in. And then I'll just reinstall this one here. That's it. And then just, you'll have to do this when you install it, but just tidy up your earth. Just place it in there. All right, so that's a finished assembly. Just, I like to tuck that earth around that center globe point there. You can see the loom is in place in the hole, and then you've got the tail here. Just do what you want with that, but you can just put it in there for transport. But that's a finished, brand new tail light assembly ready to be installed. And the options are now, you can use the original light globes. They're exactly the same as stock. Nothing's changed except for the way that they're mounted. That's stock, other than the actual change in design, and that's ready to go. The other option, if you're feeling, so the other option if you would like to, and you can do this with the originals, but this really takes it up to the next level, is you can put in LEDs. And they're exactly the same mounting system as the originals. They just give a nice brighter light and really finish off this tail light to be a modern tail light. And that's it. So they're about $40 each, those LEDs, but you can get them from any super cheap auto barn. But yeah, that will just give you a lot brighter light and yeah, take it to the next level. So that's it. That is the complete production of Unique Parts tail light, ready for assembly. And so now I'll assemble it and show you how it connects. Okay, so really installation's exactly the same as a stock unit, straight in, except for the difference is you don't have those mounting poles coming out of these ones. You just go directly in with the Allen bolts. I just like to get it situated first and then go around the back of it and we'll connect it up. These are always been a bit fiddly to do up, but the Allen bolts make it a little bit easier for access, because otherwise it's pretty tight to get a spanner in those ones. Yeah, so with this earth, just come around here and just pop it through, standard. With the older ones, the older units, you had to splice in another wire with this kind of plastic clip, but with these new sockets, you don't need to do that. All right, so yeah, the beauty of obviously getting the loom is that you can just plug it in and be off to the races. You don't get bitten by a redback in the process. This wire coming out here is the, pretty sure it's the light. The wire for the light over the number plate, which has been severed, so that'll have to be fixed up as well. But for now, there's the plug, the female, and there you go. It's a bit old and crusty, that female plug, but it fixed. Might do with a clean. Anyway, we'll find out once we fire it up. But anyway, that's pretty much just sits down in the guard. inside the guard cavity there, and then you're done. So no different to standard install. So once they're fully done up, you're happy with it, we'll go back over and we'll install the lens. All right, I got this this lens from Rare Spares years ago, and probably have to get another one because I dropped it and it broke along there just really easily actually. So they're not overly expensive, but yeah, I wasn't expecting it to break that easily. So these are the screws that come in, self-tappers that come with the lights. And they're 4.2 times 13 mil or 8 gram self-tapper. So when you're also doing it, you want to put these gaskets from Rares. They're a bit sort of scraggly looking, but they do the job, and they'll just, yeah, obviously make it watertight and then go up into those. There's a little bevel there, recess, and that sort of sits in and make sure that it's no dust and stuff can get in. I don't know if this is going to break or not, this lens cover. We'll give it a go. Probably will. With the older units, they did have like a little piece of like a steel cap over these lugs, whereas these ones are going straight into the plastic. And in my testing, they're more than enough to hold that lens on. Of course, if you did find those steel caps, you can add them over the top of those lugs, but yeah, you don't need to. Just don't over tighten. The biggest thing with these is like you over tighten them and they'll crack the lens anyway. But also, you will you might strip out the lug. But in my experience, and I've done many of these so far, yeah, you really have to absolutely torque the crap out of it to do any damage, and I'm yet to strip one. So that, I'm hesitant to push that real tight because of that broken lens, so that's annoying, but I think I'll just count my, I'll just be thankful that I've got it on there. I might buy another one down the track, but you can't see that hairline crack. I actually soldered it along on the inside. Probably do that up a bit more. And that's it. So both those lights are done now and plugged in. So if we have a look at them. Beautiful. You can see they follow the profile of the Ute, exactly the same, if not better than the originals. And yeah, finishes it off with a nice new, you can really tell they're inside the cavities of those lights when you compare it to an old one. Like this is an old original one. You see that they're really quite dull. And so when you put the lens on and you can compare them, they, yeah, they're really quite dull, whereas these new ones with the new chrome and the new black, they really pop and just make the rear of the Ute just look that little bit fresher. So happy with that. So I tick it off the list and we'll move on to the next job. All right, quick, just masked it off and given it some black, and accidentally just went over that little section there, which is a bit of a bugger, but I can always tidy it up at the end, so that's done. And I used this bumper black spray on, which is a motor spray product. So we'll see how that comes up. Seems to hold on plastic. Well, it's meant for plastic. So another thing is when you mount these grills, they have these plastic bungs in this plastic trim here. And let's focus. You can get these, Rare Spares sell them. I don't want to wait, I'm missing one, so I just made one, TPU, and yeah, so that's another job done. I have to wait a week. Yeah, so that's the beauty of having these printers. All right, so that's done. I just need to, I'm going to sort of fashion up some kind of, get that rack over there and just place it under here like I did with the tailgate. Drop that bumper back down, fix up this, this bent trim issue so that I can get it nice and level. So basically you want it to be sitting around about like the bumper bar to be sitting on that bottom plastic lip. So you've got that space and then you got the lights from what I can see on other Utes. So that's, now that the bumper's actually on there, you got a decent distance from the panel there. So you're not really in that much of a position where you're going to scratch that panel. But what I might do is actually, while this is sort of down, I might even put the scuttle panels on because I don't know how hard they are to put on once the bumper's on, or whether you actually are supposed to put them on before you put the bumper on. It's all learning experience, as you all know. And I'm on the very last stretch of that learning experience. So quick rehash, got to take this light out. It's got to be restored with a polish like I did on this one ages ago, a couple of years ago now. That's got to be done. Painting the grille. This section here I'm actually working on, and I'll show you and I'll give you an update now. Right, so this is the number plate holder. The plastic one, you can get these in chrome on the Statesman's. This one's got a decent crack in it, needs a good old wash. And so I've just plastic welded it behind it. I'm going to continue to plastic weld that, and then I'll give it a wash. I probably should have washed it before I did that, but anyway. And then I'll paint it, and then, yeah, I'm pretty happy with everything else on it. I think with a good clean, it'll come up all right. And obviously you're not going to see that because the number plate's on there. So that's just another thing I don't have to buy. They're about $100. Not going to break the bank, but I'll just give it we'll give it a bit of a zhuzh up first. We'll see how good it can come back, and then make the call from there. All right, another step closer. So got the driver's side light in, and then yeah, mounted the passenger. So overall, other than the things I mentioned before with alignment, like when you first see it, it looks fine, it looks perfect. So a couple of things I need to amend. This plastic strip along here, I don't know what you call it. It's really just to highlight the gap between the bumper bar and the light. So we've put the bumper on, but we've probably clamped up this too low, so it's actually like tilting down. You can see the gap between the light there comes down, so that's incorrect. So that needs to, I think, come down here, and like you can see that's sort of setting the height there, so it really needs a gap. I don't think you could have it flush. Once again, I don't know, yeah, this nose cone obviously came off a WB panel van, but they should be exactly the same. Like you're not going to get 5mm variation or anything. So I'm pretty sure the gap up there will be similar to the one at the bottom. So this tells me it needs to go down, which I can't really do without removing this bumper bar, which is a pain in the ass. Also, another thing, you'll notice that the chrome trim is pretty good there. I've got some holes in that trim, which I didn't realise, but someone mentioned that was probably because they put a lens guard on it, which you could buy aftermarket, so they've probably screwed it in there, which is a bit annoying because it sort of distracts from the whole thing, but you can't really see it from a distance. But yeah, this was the issue here. So you can see the gap there. Got some tape goo there I have to get off. But yeah, so you get a nice decent gap there, but then you get this cavernous kind of gap there. And I thought, okay, well, the guard might be out because these bump stops, well, these little, they're like little bump stops on the indicator. They rest up against that radiator grill, the support, and they set the distance for this indicator. And I thought that set the distance for the chrome. But as I went around to here, that's how it should be sitting. You see it's beautifully flush again, running straight down that guard there and then into the plastic. So this chrome can actually move. In fact, I did move it when I installed this and it pushed forward. So I think this was obviously loose. The screw points are loose and they did have some adjustment apparently for that chrome surround to adjust. So if you do find that is an issue, that is not because your guard's out of place, but it's just because that chrome is not adjusted correctly around the surround. So that was a bit of a relief because I was thinking that I'd stuffed it. So the next thing is this grill, the commercial grill. And I can't just put it back on. So I've got it over here. So this is an additional piece. I think this is part of the country pack or something for the WBs. This was a dust shield underneath the bottom of the car and just under the scuttle panels. And so it's a piece of ABS. You can see it's a bit warped, but it's being used. But yeah, it just sort of stops. It stopped all those stones and stuff as you're going through on a country road flicking up, and it just bolts underneath those scuttle panels and hangs down. It looks quite cool, and it wasn't it was an aftermarket. Sorry, it was a factory option apparently, as part of the country pack or something. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course, but I don't think every single one of them rolled out with that. And there, so this is a grill. It's in good nick, other than the fact that it needs to be repainted, and I'm going to give it a crack. So I've washed it, and it's dried, ready to go. I just need to give it a little bit of a sand, but you know, probably not too much, just around here where it's a bit flaky. And I was going to attempt to paint the silver and then paint the black. I did paint that yesterday. So yeah, the masking in this I thought would be potentially a bit of a issue. You can see it's been masked along really quite straight along that edge there, and I don't know how they would have done that other than making a sort of a template that sits inside this whole area, and they just put that rested on, and it would have been perfectly fit so that they could quickly just go spray the silver. But of course I don't have that, so I'll have to do it the manual way and just tape it up and paint the black and then do a reverse taping and paint the silver. So I'll do that now. Okay, so I've taped that up and given it a light sand, and little Jack's coming out to say hi. Hey Jack, how you going? And I'm going to use some of this liquid chrome, which I use on the taillight buckets. It's really good chrome paint, and I'll give it a go along there. We'll see if we can get it back to, here you go mate. Yeah, okay. See if we can get it back to brand new again. Okay, done that. So I'm just going to peel it back, so have a look. It's got a little bit of a texture on it. I don't know if it's just reacted to that plastic. I should have put a primer on or not, but I think I'll just be happy with that. We can always change it down the track. So I'll move on now and give that black a bit of a paint and then tick it off the list. There it is, fully assembled. Just put the number plate cover there and the scuttle panels down the bottom. And then I just dropped it because I wanted to see how that 17s look under the guard there. But as you can see, it's got a really nice stance on it. I'm happy with The way the panels have come in, the paint is giving it a nice little silver kind of sheen. I haven't really cleaned it either. It's still pretty dusty, but as you can see, it's sort of, yeah, it's got a decent shine on it. Pretty happy with the way the gaps are. As I mentioned many times before, being the first build, you know, on the second build I'd do it totally different. I would never assemble after paint, that's for sure, because I could get those gaps better if they were in primer. I could have sorted them out and bolted it up afterwards, and then honed it from there. But you live and learn, and I didn't manage to damage anything majorly. So yeah, that's pretty much a complete WB. Again, back to when it was 8 years ago, 7.5 years ago. Kingswood mirrors, panel gaps, all the plugs in. Still got to give them a bit of a scrub. The new tail lights, it took 12 months to develop just to so I can get some new ones, and now that's become a business in its own right. What a journey it's been, I tell you. I wouldn't change it for the world. It's been fantastic. It's almost coming to an end now, and the exciting part will be driving the thing. But still got a couple of more episodes to go yet. Obviously, the interior, I ran out of time for that. But the door cards are going next. So you can see the 3-inch lowering springs, leaf springs on the rear. You could go a little bit lower than that, but once they bed in, you know, I reckon they'll be sitting nice. I'm happy with that, the way that's sitting now anyway. Said I'm not an 18-year-old, I'm 48 years old, so a bit of an old bastard now. But that is the hero shot for me. I just love that stance. The wheel slightly kinked in. It's just sitting beautifully. So I spoke to a bloke in Bendigo. He's coming out to fit the windscreen next week. And he's going to do all the trim and everything, which is good. And he'll do the rear windscreen as well. So that's it. Another 4 months down the track, but I managed to assemble it all. And geez, we're so close now. All right. So there you are. Finally got it fully assembled. And I don't want to block it. It's, yeah, the view's too good. I don't really know what else to say other than just, there you are. I'll see you next episode.